Logan pressed his forehead against the cold window of the bus as it crawled through Seoul's morning traffic, watching his reflection blur against the gray cityscape. 15 years old and invisible. That's how he'd describe himself if anyone bothered to ask, which they never did. The Yongsan International Academy uniform felt heavier today, the navy blazer somehow emphasizing how thin he was, how his shoulders didn't fill the fabric the way they did on guys like Marcus Chen or Blake Park. His phone buzzed with the class. Group chat? Messages flooding in about tonight's basketball game, plans he wasn't included in. Inside jokes he'd never understand. Logan didn't bother reading past the first few lines anymore. The bus lurched to a stop outside the academy's iron gates, and Logan shuffled out with the morning crowd, keeping his head down as students streamed past in clusters of laughter and energy. He'd perfected the art of invisibility over 3 years here, walk at a specific pace, never make eye contact, stay near walls, blend into crowds. It usually worked. Usually. But today, as he approached his locker on the second floor, he noticed Marcus and his friends gathered nearby, their voices pitched just loud enough to carry. "Did you see Logan's essay score?" Marcus said, leaning against the lockers with that effortless confidence that seemed to radiate from every popular kid. Teacher Kim actually read it out loud as an example of what not to do. Yadik. Group erupted in laughter, and Logan felt his face burn as he fumbled with his combination lock. His essay hadn't been that bad. He'd spent hours on it, trying to analyze the modernization themes in Korean literature. But apparently his interpretation had been fundamentally misguided, according to the teacher's red-inked comments. "Hey, Logan," Blake called out, his American name matching his half-Korean, half-American heritage that somehow made him even more popular. "You coming to tryouts today? Oh, wait, I forgot. You can't even do 10 push-ups." More laughter. Logan's fingers trembled as he finally got his locker open, pretending to search for something, anything, to avoid responding. The humiliation wrapped around him like a second skin, familiar and suffocating. The morning dragged through calculus and Korean history, Logan sitting in his usual spot by the window in the back corner, where teachers rarely called on him. During lunch, he found his regular table in the cafeteria, the one near the kitchen doors that nobody wanted because of the noise and heat. He ate his kimbap quickly, mechanically, watching the social hierarchies play out across the crowded room. The athletes at their table, the student council in their corner, the arts kids by the windows, the international students clustering together. And then there was Logan, alone with his lunch and his phone, scrolling through nothing. That afternoon, in physical education class, Coach Lee divided them into teams for basketball. Logan was picked last, as always, and spent most of the game standing near half-court, occasionally jogging back and forth to maintain the illusion of participation. At one point, the ball bounced toward him and he actually caught it. A small miracle. But before he could even think about what to do next, Marcus had stolen it away. "Nice catch, Butterfingers," Marcus laughed, driving toward the basket for an easy layup. The gymnasium's fluorescent lights seemed too bright, the squeaking shoes too loud. The whole experience a reminder of every physical inadequacy Logan possessed. After school, while other students rushed to clubs or hung out on the rooftop terrace, or headed to PC Bang's in Itaewon, Logan took the subway 3 stops north to his family's apartment in Mapo. His mother was already at her night shift at the hospital, his father still at the construction site in Gangnam. Logan microwaved leftover japchae and sat at the kitchen table with his homework. The apartment silent, except for the occasional rumble of trains passing underground. His phone stayed dark. No messages, no missed calls, no notifications that mattered. He wondered sometimes what it would feel like to be someone people wanted to talk to have plans that weren't just homework and sleep and the same routine tomorrow. Around 8 in the evening, Logan's phone finally buzzed with a message from his mother. "Groceries needed. List on counter. Sorry, honey." He sighed, pocketing the handwritten note and heading back out into Seoul's neon-lit streets. The convenience store was only 2 blocks away, but his mother had specified certain items from the traditional market in Seokon, a neighborhood of narrow alleys and old hammocks nestled against the northern mountains. Logan didn't mind the walk. It was better than sitting alone in the apartment. The market was closing down for the night, elderly vendors packing up their goods under strings of yellow light bulbs. Logan bought the items quickly: dried anchovies, sesame oil, fresh perilla, leaves, and was cutting through the back alleys toward the subway when he noticed the street had changed. Not dramatically, but subtly. The sounds had muffled, as if cotton had been stuffed in his ears. The shadows stretched longer than they should, pooling in corners like liquid. Logan stopped, his plastic bags rustling in the suddenly still air. That's when he saw the crack. It hung in the alley like a tear in reality itself, vertical and shimmering with colors that hurt to look at directly. Purples that weren't quite purple, blacks that seemed to absorb light. Logan stepped backward, his heart hammering, but his foot caught on something and he stumbled. The bags dropped, groceries scattering across the pavement as he fell forward, his hand shooting out instinctively. His palm pressed against the cracks, surface, and everything exploded into sensation. Logan gasped as his vision went white, then fractured into 1,000 images. He saw vast crystalline landscapes, forests made of something that wasn't quite trees, oceans that flowed upward, creatures that defied description hunting and being hunted. Information flooded his mind. Terms like genetic evolution, dimensional, hunting grounds, gene absorption, advancement levels. The crack pulsed against his hand, and Logan felt something transfer into him, through his skin, into his bloodstream, settling into every cell of his body like seeds planted in fertile soil. When his vision cleared, Logan was on his knees in the alley, his hand still extended toward where the crack had been. It was gone now, sealed shut, leaving only normal shadows and normal sounds. But Logan wasn't normal anymore. He could feel it immediately, a strange new awareness tingling beneath. His skin, an interface that existed somewhere between his mind and body. When he focused, semi-transparent text appeared in his vision, glowing with soft, blue light. Gene evolution system activated. Host: Logan Kim current level. Unranked genetic potential, 0-100 dimensional access. Enabled status. Unevolved tutorial. Active Logan scrambled to his feet, his breath coming in short gasps. He looked at his hands. They looked the same. But when he concentrated, he could see faint patterns beneath the skin, like circuitry made of light. The interface in his vision shifted, offering new information. Primary world, Earth, current location. Evolution world, accessible tutorial entries remaining. 3/3 warning. First entry must be completed within 48 hours. Logan gathered his scattered groceries with shaking hands, his mind racing. Evolution world, genetic potential, tutorial mode. What had he just touched? The walk home was a blur, Logan's awareness, split between the familiar soul streets and the strange interface that now overlaid his vision. By the time he reached his apartment, he'd discovered he could minimize and expand different menus with thought alone, accessing information about something called gene absorption and creature evolution paths. That night, Logan lay in bed, unable to sleep, staring at the ceiling while the interface pulsed gently in the corner of his vision. According to the information available, the evolution world was a separate dimensional space where creatures existed that had never evolved on Earth. By hunting these creatures and absorbing their genetic material, Logan could evolve his own body, gaining abilities and transformations based on what genes he collected. It sounded insane, like something from a manhwa or a video game. But the interface was real, responding to his thoughts, showing him entry protocols and basic survival information. The next day at school, Logan moved through his classes in a daze. Everything felt different now, though nothing had actually changed. Marcus still made jokes at his expense during homeroom. Blake still ignored him in the hallways. The cafeteria still relegated him to his corner table. But Logan carried a secret, now something that burned in his chest like a pilot light, waiting to ignite. During chemistry lab, he found himself staring at his lab partner's arm, and suddenly the interface activated unbidden, analyzing the student's genetic structure, displaying muscle density and bone composition data. Logan quickly looked away, disturbed by this invasive new sense. After school, Logan didn't head home. Instead, he took the subway to Bukhansan, the mountain park at Seoul's northern edge, where hiking trails wound through forests and granite peaks. He needed somewhere private, somewhere the dimensional entry wouldn't be witnessed. The interface had explained that entering the evolution world would create a small, spatial distortion. Nothing dramatic, but noticeable to anyone nearby. Logan climbed past the lower trails filled with after-work hikers and elderly exercise groups, pushing higher until he found a small clearing off the main path, surrounded by pine trees and ancient rocks. His heart pounded as he opened the interface's entry menu. The instructions were simple: focus his intention, accept the system's terms, allow the dimensional transfer. Logan took a deep breath of Seoul's mountain air, smelling pine and earth, and distant city pollution, then mentally selected yes. The world twisted. Logan's stomach dropped as reality folded around him, colors inverting and sounds stretching. For a horrible moment he felt like he was being pulled through a tube too, small for his body, every cell compressing and then expanding. Then his feet hit solid ground and the sensation stopped. Logan opened his eyes and forgot how to breathe. He stood in a forest, but not like any forest on Earth. The trees were massive, their trunks wider than buses, their bark pulsing with bioluminescent veins of blue and green. The sky above was wrong, too purple, with 3 moons visible despite what seemed to be daylight. The air tasted sweet and electric, charged with energy that made Logan's skin prickle. Strange sounds echoed through the forest, calls that were part bird, part something else entirely. The interface updated in his vision. Welcome to Evolution World, Tutorial Mode. Current zone, Beginner Forest, Safe Zone. Available creatures, Common Rank Entities. Objective, Hunt and absorb genetic material to evolve. Tutorial Assistance, Full. Guidance enabled. Note: tutorial mechanics differ from standard mode. Logan's hands trembled as he looked around the clearing where he'd materialized. A small stream burbled nearby, its water glowing faintly. Massive ferns created walls of green, and in the distance he could hear something moving, something large. The interface provided a basic map in the corner of his vision, showing his location as a blue dot in a vast, unexplored territory. Nearby red dots indicated creatures, some moving, some stationary. He took his first cautious steps forward, following the stream downstream. The interface had mentioned that beginner areas usually contained relatively safe creatures, though safe was clearly relative. Logan had never hunted anything in his life. He'd never even been camping without his parents. But something about this place called to him on an instinctive level, as if his newly awakened genetic potential recognized this as its natural environment. A rustling in the ferns made Logan freeze. His interface immediately highlighted the location, displaying text: Common Horned Rabbit, Level 1. Basic genetic material available. Logan watched as a creature emerged, about the size of a large dog, with silver fur and 2 crystalline horns, sprouting from its head. It looked almost cute until it opened its mouth, revealing 3 rows of needle-sharp teeth. The rabbit creature sniffed the air, its nose twitching, then its eyes locked onto Logan. For a moment they stared at each other, human teenager and alien creature. Then the rabbit charged, faster than Logan expected, its horns aimed at his stomach. Logan yelped and dove sideways, hitting the ground hard, rolling behind a tree trunk. The creature's horns slammed into the bark with a crack like a gunshot, embedding deep. Logan's heart hammered as the creature struggled to free itself, yanking its head back and forth. The interface pulsed urgently. Vulnerable. Strike now to maximize gene absorption. Logan looked around desperately and grabbed a fallen branch, thick as his arm and covered in moss. He didn't think, just acted, swinging the branch with all his strength at the creature's exposed side. The impact jarred his arms, but the rabbit went down, squealing. Logan hit it again, and again, until it stopped moving, until the strange silver blood stopped pooling on the purple grass. Logan dropped the branch and staggered back, breathing hard, his hands shaking. He'd never killed anything before. Never. even hurt an animal intentionally. But the interface was already displaying new information. Genetic material detected. Absorb? Yes, no. Tutorial mode, automatic absorption enabled. Logan stared at the creature's body, at his trembling hands, then mentally selected yes. The rabbit's corpse began to glow, dissolving into streams of light that flowed toward Logan like living water. He gasped as the light touched his skin and sank in, spreading warmth through his body. The sensation was indescribable, like drinking lightning, like every cell in his body was waking up for the first time. Information flooded his mind. Enhanced leg muscle structure, improved reaction speed, reinforced skeletal density. The interface updated. Genetic potential. 5/100 common horned rabbit genes absorbed minor enhancement. Leg strength. Pubs 3%. Minor enhancement. Reaction time. Pubs 2%. Tutorial. Note. Standard mode requires cooking for gene extraction. Logan looked at his legs and could actually see the subtle difference. Muscles slightly more defined beneath his uniform pants. He jumped experimentally and went 1/2 meter higher than he'd ever managed before, landing with perfect balance. A laugh escaped his throat, equal parts shock and exhilaration. This was real. This was actually real. For the next hour, Logan explored the beginner forest, learning its rhythms, hunting more of the common creatures. He found rabbit creatures nesting in hollow trees, bird-like entities with razor feathers, small reptilian things that camouflaged against rocks. Each kill became easier as his genetic enhancements accumulated, his body growing stronger, faster, more coordinated. The interface guided him constantly, highlighting weak points, suggesting tactics, automatically absorbing genetic material from each kill in bursts of light. By the time the interface warned him that his entry time was ending, Logan had absorbed genes from 7 different creatures, and his genetic potential had reached 42 out of 100. The return to Earth was just as disorienting as the entry. Logan materialized back in the Bukhansan clearing, stumbling as his body readjusted to normal gravity and atmosphere. But he wasn't the same person who'd left. His school uniform was torn and stained with silver blood that was already evaporating into nothing. His muscles felt dense and powerful, his senses sharper. When he looked at the Seoul cityscape visible through the trees, he could see details that should have been too distant. Individual windows in buildings kilometers away, birds flying between, skyscrapers, the patterns of traffic on the highways. The interface pulsed with a notification. Tutorial entries. Remaining. 2 to 3 Logan made his way down the mountain as dusk settled over the city, his mind racing with possibilities. The genetic enhancements felt permanent, integrated into his body at a fundamental level. He was stronger, faster, more coordinated than he'd been this morning. And according to the interface, this was just the beginning. The common rank genes were the weakest available. There were rare creatures, elite creatures, legendary entities, each offering more powerful genetic material. The next morning at Yongsan International Academy, Logan walked through the gates with his head up for the first time in months. He wasn't invisible anymore, not to himself at least. During morning PE class, when Coach Lee had them run laps, Logan found himself pulling ahead of the pack effortlessly, his enhanced leg muscles making the exercise feel easy. Students noticed, whispers following him around the track. Marcus frowned, from his position in the middle of the pack, clearly confused about how Logan had suddenly gotten faster. In the locker room afterward, Blake approached with his usual entourage. Well, he said, leaning against the lockers. Logan's been working out. Did you finally get a gym membership? The group laughed, but it felt different now, less sharp. Logan met Blake's eyes and saw something flicker there. Uncertainty, maybe, or reassessment. Logan didn't respond, just grabbed his bag and walked past, feeling their stares on his back. During lunch, Logan sat at his usual corner table, but now he used the time to study the interface's information about genetic evolution paths. Apparently, once he reached 100 genetic potential, he could undergo his first transformation, choosing a specialization based on the genes he'd absorbed. The options were vast. predator paths, defender paths, speed paths, power paths, each requiring specific genetic material combinations. He had one tutorial entry remaining, and he wanted to maximize it before the system switched to whatever standard mode meant. That afternoon, Logan returned to the evolution world, this time entering from a quiet corner of the school's rooftop during a free period. The dimensional transfer was faster now, his body already adapting to the process. He materialized in a different part of the beginner forest, near a crystal cave system, the interface identified as containing slightly stronger creatures. The tutorial assistants continued to guide him, highlighting threats, identifying creatures before they attacked, automatically converting kills into genetic material. Logan spent 2 hours hunting with growing confidence, his enhanced body making the fights almost easy. The creatures here were slightly stronger than before, crystalline wolves, armored beetles the size of motorcycles, serpentine things that dropped from trees. But with each kill, Logan felt himself evolving, his genetic potential climbing steadily. By the time he'd cleared the cave system, he'd reached 73 out of 100 potential, his body humming with accumulated power. When he returned to Earth, solidifying back into reality on the empty rooftop, he found he wasn't alone. A girl stood near the doorway, her eyes wide behind wire-rimmed glasses. Emma Hayes, from his Korean literature class, quiet, smart, one of the few students who'd never actively participated in mocking him. She was staring at the space where Logan had just appeared, her phone hanging loose in her hand. "What was that?" Emma whispered, her voice barely audible over the city sounds drifting up from below. "You just appeared, out of nothing, and your clothes." She gestured at his uniform, which was torn and stained with the silver blood of alien creatures, though it was already starting to evaporate. Logan's mind raced. The interface hadn't mentioned witnesses, hadn't prepared him for this scenario in tutorial mode. He could deny it, make something up, but Emma had clearly seen the dimensional transfer. Her expression wasn't scared exactly, more shocked, curious, like someone who'd just discovered the world was bigger than they'd thought. "I need you to not tell anyone," Logan said carefully, his enhanced mind already calculating responses, exit strategies, consequences. "Please, it's complicated." Emma stared at him for a long moment, her dark eyes searching his face. Then, instead of responding, she held up her phone. On the screen was a news article, time-stamped from 20 minutes ago. The headline read, "Mass Hallucinations in Seoul. Hundreds report seeing dimensional rifts across city." Logan's blood went cold as he took the phone, scrolling through the article. Reports were flooding in from all over Seoul, people seeing cracks in reality. Some claiming to have touched them, others describing impossible visions. The phenomenon had started last night, around the same time Logan had first encountered his crack in Seocheon. Social media was exploding with videos, photos, theories ranging from mass hysteria to government experiments to alien invasion. "It's not just you, is it?" Emma said quietly, lowering her phone. "Whatever this is, it's happening to other people too." Logan's interface suddenly chimed with new information, and his heart sank as he read the notification. Phenomenon expansion detected, estimated new hosts. 10,000 plus, Seoul metropolitan area. Estimated new hosts, 50,000 plus, nationwide. Estimated new hosts, unknown global tutorial entries. Remaining 1-3, Logan, Emma pressed, stepping closer. "What's happening? What did you just come back from?" Before he could answer, his phone buzzed with messages. The class group chat was going crazy. Students sharing videos, some claiming to have seen the rifts themselves, others posting memes. Already. But buried in the noise was a message from a number he didn't recognize. "To anyone who can see this interface, you're not alone. Meeting tonight at Hangang Park, Uido section, 10 p.m. Come if you want answers." Logan showed Emma the message. Her eyes widened. "You have an interface. What does it say?" "That there are thousands of people like me now," Logan said slowly, the implications crashing over him. "People who can access another world. People who can evolve." The rooftop door banged open and Marcus stumbled out, his face pale, his hands trembling. He didn't even seem to notice Logan and Emma at first, just rushed to the railing and stared at his palms. Blue light flickered beneath his skin, faint circuitry patterns that Logan recognized immediately. "What the hell?" Marcus gasped, his usual confidence completely shattered. "What the hell is happening to me? I saw this crack in the bathroom and I touched it, and now there's voices in my head and—" He finally noticed Logan and Emma. His eyes narrowed, focusing on Logan's torn uniform, the fading silver stains. "You too?" Logan nodded slowly. The dynamic between them had shifted in an instant. Marcus wasn't the confident bully anymore, just another scared teenager facing something impossible. "Yeah, me too." "Do you know what this is?" Marcus demanded, the blue light pulsing brighter in his palms. "Your interface thing, does it explain?" "A little," Logan admitted. "There's another world. We can access it. We can hunt creatures there and evolve our bodies. But that's insane," Marcus interrupted, but his voice lacked conviction. The evidence was literally glowing in his hands. "That's actually insane." Emma's phone buzzed with an alert, and she gasped. "The news is saying the government just issued a statement. They're calling it a mass psychological event and telling people not to touch any visual anomalies they encounter. But look at the comments. Thousands of people saying they already touched them, that they have these interfaces now." Logan's mind raced. The world had changed overnight, and somehow he was ahead of the curve by a single day. He pulled up his interface again, checking his tutorial status, one entry remaining. After that, whatever advantages the tutorial provided would disappear, and he'd be on the same playing field as everyone else who'd just been activated. "I'm going to that meeting tonight," Logan said, making a decision. "Whoever sent that message knows more than we do. And if thousands of people can access this evolution world now, we need to understand what's really happening." "I'm coming with you," Emma said immediately. Marcus hesitated, his pride clearly warring with his fear and curiosity. Finally, he nodded. "Yeah, me too. I need answers." The rest of the school day was chaos. News spread through Yongsan Academy. Like wildfire, some students claiming to have interfaces, others accusing them of lying for attention, teachers trying to maintain order while clearly having no idea what was actually happening. By the time the final bell rang, the government had held an emergency press conference. Officials in suits standing before microphones and cameras, their faces grave. "We are investigating the reported phenomena," the Minister of Science and ICT said, his voice steady but his eyes betraying uncertainty. "Initial analysis suggests a form of mass suggestion, possibly triggered by coordinated social media campaigns. We urge citizens to remain calm and report any unusual experiences to the dedicated hotline." But Logan could read between the lines. The government had no idea what was happening, no way to stop it, no control over a situation that was spiraling beyond anyone's ability to manage. And somewhere out there, thousands of people were preparing to enter the evolution world for the first time, to hunt creatures they couldn't understand, to evolve in ways that would change humanity forever. That evening, Logan convinced his parents he was going to a study group, not entirely a lie, given what he hoped to learn. He met Emma and Marcus at Uedo subway station, and together they walked through the park along the Han River. The meeting location was a small pavilion near the water, and as they approached, Logan counted at least 30 people already there, ranging from middle schoolers to adults in business suits. All of them had the same look in their eyes, a mix of fear, excitement, and confusion. A woman in her mid-20s stood at the center of the pavilion, her posture confident, her eyes sharp. When she spoke, her voice carried clearly across the gathered crowd. "Thank you for coming. My name is Jade Park, and like all of you, I touched a rift yesterday. Unlike most of you, I work for a private research firm that's been tracking dimensional anomalies for the past 3 years. What's happening isn't new. It's just accelerating." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Logan leaned forward, his interface confirming that Jade also had an active system, her genetic potential reading as 38 out of 100. which meant she'd already entered the evolution world at least once. The rifts lead to what we're calling the evolution world, Jade continued. A separate dimension where creatures exist that can enhance human genetics through a process we don't fully understand yet. The interface you're seeing, the tutorial, mode, it's all real. And as of this morning, an estimated 200,000 people worldwide have been activated, with numbers growing exponentially. A man in a business suit raised his hand. Why is this happening? Who created this system? We don't know, Jade admitted. The rifts appeared 3 years ago, but were extremely rare, maybe a dozen worldwide. Something changed yesterday. The frequency increased by a factor of 10,000. As for who created the system, our best guess is that it's not human in origin. The technology, if you can even call it that, is beyond anything we understand. Marcus spoke up, his voice carrying an edge. What happens after the tutorial? My interface keeps mentioning standard mode. Jade's expression grew serious. That's why I called this meeting. The tutorial is generous. Automatic genetic absorption, full AI guidance, safe zones. Standard mode is different, harder. We've been monitoring early activators who finished their tutorials, and the reports are troubling. No more automatic absorption. You have to cook the creatures to extract genes. No more AI assistance beyond basic data display. No more guaranteed safe zones. And most critically, she paused, letting the tension build. You need portal essence to enter the evolution world after tutorial mode ends. Portal essence? Emma asked, her voice tight. A crystalline material that drops randomly from creatures you kill in the evolution world, Jade explained. Each entry after the tutorial costs 1 essence. No essence, no entry. Which means hunting becomes a resource management game. You need to kill enough to get essence for future entries while also maximizing genetic gains. Logan's interface chimed, and he pulled up his remaining tutorial entry count. 1 for 3. One more guaranteed entry with full assistance, then he'd be thrown into the deep end with everyone else. There's something else you need to know, Jade said, her voice dropping lower. The 2 worlds are separate. Creatures can't cross between dimensions. Only humans with activated systems can. But that doesn't mean Earth is safe. Because what do you think happens when 200,000 people suddenly gain superhuman abilities? When some of them start evolving into something beyond human? The social implications alone. A scream cut through the night air, coming from somewhere deeper in the park. The gathered group tensed, and Logan's enhanced senses immediately picked up signs of a fight. The thud of impacts, crashing sounds, someone yelling. His interface lit up with proximity alerts, but not for creatures, for other system users. It's already starting, Jade said grimly. Some people saw the tutorial mode abilities and immediately thought, power. Give humans superhuman strength, and what do you think happens? Some use it to help, others use it to take. Logan, Emma, and Marcus exchanged glances. The reality of their new world was crystallizing rapidly. This wasn't just about hunting creatures in another dimension. This was about humanity fracturing into evolved and unevolved, about power dynamics shifting, about society reorganizing around those who could access genetic enhancements and those who couldn't. I'll be organizing more meetings, Jade said, as people began to disperse, some running toward the sounds of fighting, others fleeing in the opposite direction. If you want to survive what's coming, you'll need allies, teams, resources, information. Find me on the coordination board. She held up her phone, showing a messaging app with a group called Soul Evolved Collective. Logan added himself to the group, his mind already planning. He had 1 tutorial entry left, and he needed to make it count. Reach 100 genetic potential, unlock his first transformation. Stockpile as much portal essence as he could before the tutorial ended. After that, he'd be competing with hundreds of thousands of others for limited dimensional access. Hunting creatures without AI assistance. Cooking meat from alien animals to extract genes while hoping he didn't poison himself. The walk back to... The subway was tense, the 3 of them jumping at shadows, hyper-aware that any of the people around them might have evolved abilities, might see them as competition or threats or resources. Seoul's neon lights reflected off the Han River, the city looking the same as it always had. But Logan knew that underneath the surface, everything had changed. "One more question," Marcus said as they waited for the train. "What happens when we run out of common creatures to hunt? What happens when the only way to keep evolving is to go deeper into the evolution world, fight stronger things? How far does this go?" Logan didn't have an answer. His interface didn't have an answer. But as the subway car rattled through Seoul's underground tunnels, he opened his system menu one more time and selected his final tutorial entry protocol. Tomorrow, before school, he would return to the evolution world. He would push as far as his tutorial advantages would take him. He would reach 100 genetic potential and undergo his first transformation. Because if Jade was right, if the world was fracturing into evolved and unevolved, into those who adapted and those who fell behind, Logan wasn't going to be left behind again. He'd spent 15 years being invisible, being powerless, being nothing. That version of himself was dead, dissolved like the creatures he'd hunted, their genetic material absorbed and transformed into something new. His phone buzzed, with a notification from the Seoul Evolved Collective Group. Someone had posted a video, footage from a convenience store security camera showing a person moving with impossible speed, their body briefly glowing with the same blue light that marked system users. The caption read, "Hongdae District. Evolution. User robbing store. Police can't catch him. New world, new rules." Emma saw it too, her expression troubled. "This is really happening, isn't it? Society's going to tear itself apart before we even understand what we're becoming." "Maybe," Logan admitted, watching Seoul flash past the subway windows. "Or maybe we'll find a way to make it work. But either way, I'm not sitting on the sidelines." By 3, train pulled into his station, and Logan stood, his genetically enhanced body moving with a grace he'd never possessed before. Marcus nodded to him, a gesture of tentative respect that would have been unthinkable 2 days ago. Emma smiled, her eyes reflecting that same mixture of fear and excitement that Logan felt burning in his chest. "Tomorrow," Logan said. "I finish the tutorial, then we figure out what comes next." He emerged from the subway into the Seoul night, the city lights painting shadows across his face, and Logan felt the weight of his final tutorial entry, waiting, ready to be used. Somewhere out there, in a dimension beyond human understanding, creatures were hunting and being hunted, evolving and devolving, and Logan was about to step back into that world one last time, with the training wheels still on. After that, the real test would begin. After that, he'd find out what it truly meant to evolve in a world where the only rule was adapt or die, and the cost of entry was measured in crystallized essence torn from alien flesh. After that, Logan Kim would discover whether the invisible boy from Yongsan Academy could transform into something strong enough to survive what was coming. The interface pulsed in his vision. Tutorial entries remaining. 1-2 Logan smiled grimly and headed home to prepare. Tomorrow, everything would change again. Tomorrow, the tutorial would end. And the day after that, the real evolution would begin. Logan woke at 4 a.m, his body no longer requiring the full 8 hours of sleep it used to need. The genetic enhancements had restructured something fundamental in his physiology. His cells recovered faster, required less downtime, operated with an efficiency that felt almost mechanical. He lay in the darkness of his small bedroom, listening to the sounds of his father's snoring through the thin walls of their Mapo apartment, and pulled up his interface with a thought. Tutorial. Entries remaining. 1-2 genetic potential, 73-100 time limit warning. Tutorial access expires in 47 hours. Notice. Only first 100,000 activations receive tutorial privileges. Logan's stomach tightened at that last notification. It had appeared overnight, added to his system without fanfare or explanation. Somewhere, in the world, a clock was counting down. And when it hit 0, anyone who hadn't completed their tutorial entries would be thrown into standard mode with whatever genetic potential they'd managed to accumulate. The Seoul Evolved Collective group chat had exploded with panic around 3 a.m. when people started seeing the timer. Arguments about fairness, desperate questions about how to maximize final tutorial runs. and increasingly disturbing reports of people attacking each other for information about optimal hunting strategies. He scrolled through the messages with growing unease. User ShadowFist82 had posted, "Guy in Gangnam tried to force me to tell him my hunting spots. Had to fight him off. He was strong, maybe 60 potential already. This is getting dangerous." Below that, Moonchild wrote, "My brother didn't make it back from his second tutorial entry. Interface says his vital signs stopped. He's just gone. Police won't even investigate because they don't know how." Logan closed the chat and sat up, his enhanced vision easily piercing the pre-dawn darkness. Across the room, his school uniform, hung on a chair, freshly washed by his mother before her night shift. She'd left a note on his desk that he'd found last night. "Proud of you for studying hard. Dad's job might end this month. Company closing Gangnam site. We'll figure it out. Love you." The note sat there like a weight in his chest. His father had worked construction for 15 years, steady income that kept them fed and housed in one of Seoul's most expensive cities. But construction was brutal work that had aged his father faster than it should have, left him with a bad back and knees that ached in cold weather. At 43, his father looked 55, and the thought of him scrambling for new work in a job market that was about to be completely disrupted by people with superhuman abilities made Logan's enhanced heart beat faster with something between anger and determination. He pulled on workout clothes and left the apartment quietly, taking the stairs down rather than risk the elevator's noise. Seoul was never truly asleep, but at 4 a.m. it came close. Delivery trucks making their rounds, a few salary workers stumbling home from all-night drinking sessions, the occasional taxi cruising for fares. Logan jogged through the empty streets toward Bukhansan, his body moving with a fluid grace that still surprised him. 2 days ago, this run would have left him winded. Now his enhanced cardiovascular system barely registered the exertion. The mountain park's entrance wouldn't officially open for another 2 hours, but Logan found a section of fence that was poorly maintained and slipped through. He needed privacy for what came next, needed space where no one would see the dimensional transfer or ask questions he couldn't answer. The trail was dark, lit only by occasional emergency lights, but Logan's enhanced vision rendered it in sharp detail. Every root, every rock, every rustle of small animals in the undergrowth. He climbed for 30 minutes, pushing past the lower observation points, moving into the deeper forest where hikers rarely ventured before dawn. Finally, he found a small clearing surrounded by dense pine trees, a natural amphitheater of stone and moss that felt removed from the city sprawling below. Logan checked his phone. 4:47 in the morning. He had time before his parents woke, time before school, time to make this final tutorial entry count. His interface responded to his intention, pulling up the entry protocol. But this time, new information appeared alongside it. Tutorial completion. Notice: upon completion of final tutorial entry, you will be transferred to Standard Evolution World Random Shelter Assignment based on South Korea region. Tutorial genetic potential will be preserved as starting point portal essence required. For future entries, 1 essence per entry, unlimited duration per visit. Warning: standard mode difficulty significantly increased. Note: achievement of 100 genetic potential during tutorial unlocks. First evolution option. Logan's hands trembled slightly as he read the updated information. 1 essence per entry, but he could stay in the evolution world as long as needed. The system was like a passport. As long as he had essence, he could travel between worlds freely. But if someone stole his essence while he was in the evolution world, he'd be trapped there indefinitely. The implications were staggering. He took a deep breath of mountain air, tasting pine and earth, and the distant pollution of Seoul. Then, mentally selected, enter. The world twisted and Logan fell through reality, his stomach lurching as dimensions compressed and expanded around him. The sensation was more intense this time, as if the system was preparing him for something different, in something harder. Colors inverted, sounds stretched into impossible frequencies, and for a moment, Logan felt like he was being pulled apart and reassembled molecule by molecule. Then his feet hit ground and everything snapped into focus. Logan opened his eyes and immediately knew something was different. He stood in the same evolution world, the massive trees with bioluminescent bark, the purple sky with 3 moons, the electric taste of the air. But the interface had changed. The friendly blue glow had shifted to a harsher white light, and the information displayed was more clinical, less helpful. Final tutorial entry initiated current zone, transition forest creature classification. Common to uncommon rank, AI assistance, minimal, preparing for standard mode. Objective: achieve maximum genetic potential before tutorial ends. Time limit: 8 hours. The tutorial was teaching him to function without handholding, Logan realized. The creature indicators were still there but less detailed, just red dots on his minimap, without names or threat levels. The automatic absorption was still enabled, but the interface no longer suggested tactics or highlighted weak points. He was being weaned off the advantages, prepared for a world where the AI would only speak to confirm data and absorption, nothing more. Logan moved forward cautiously, his enhanced senses alert for threats. The forest here felt different from his. Previous entries, darker, denser, with sounds that suggested larger predators. Within minutes, he encountered his first creature, and his breath caught. It was similar to the horned rabbits he'd fought before, but larger, easily the size of a full-grown deer. Its crystalline horns were longer, sharper, and its silver fur sparked with what looked like electrical discharge. The interface finally provided minimal data. Uncommon rank, storm rabbit, threat level moderate. The creature spotted Logan and charged immediately, no hesitation, its body leaving trails of electricity in the purple grass. Logan dove sideways, his enhanced reflexes making the movement smooth, but he felt the heat of the electrical discharge as it passed. The storm rabbit wheeled around with frightening speed and charged again, and this time Logan was forced to roll behind one of the massive trees, his heart pounding. This was different from the tutorial's easy mode. This creature was faster, smarter, more dangerous. Logan looked around desperately for a weapon and spotted a broken branch, thick as a baseball bat but with a jagged end. He grabbed it and waited, counting heartbeats, listening to the storm rabbit's electrical crackling as it searched for him. When it rounded the tree, Logan was ready. He swung the branch with all his enhanced strength, aiming for the creature's head. The impact connected with a crack and a burst of electrical feedback that shot up Logan's arms, making his muscles seize. He screamed and dropped the branch, his hands smoking slightly. But the storm rabbit had also been stunned, staggering sideways with one of its horns cracked. Logan didn't give it time to recover. He grabbed a rock the size of his fist and brought it down on the creature's skull again and again, each impact sending fresh jolts of electricity through his body, but his enhanced constitution allowing him to push through the pain. Finally, the storm rabbit stopped moving, its electrical field flickering and dying, leaving only smoking fur and silver blood pooling on the ground. Logan collapsed next to the corpse, his hands shaking, his muscles twitching from the electrical damage. The interface pulsed. Genetic material detected. Absorb. Yes, no. Logan mentally selected yes and watched as the creature's body began to glow, dissolving into light. But this time the absorption felt different, more intense, more transformative. The storm rabbit's genes were higher quality than the common creatures he'd hunted before, and he could feel them integrating into his system with almost violent force. Genetic potential: 81-100 uncommon storm rabbit. Genes absorbed: moderate enhancement, electrical resistance, +15%, moderate enhancement, nervous system conductivity, +112%, moderate enhancement, reaction speed, +8%. Note: tutorial absorption differs from standard mode. Corpses will remain after completion. Logan lay on the purple grass, breathing hard, feeling his body adapt and change. His nervous system was rewiring itself, neurons firing faster, electrical signals transmitting with increased efficiency. When he finally stood, he felt different, sharper, quicker, like his body was operating at a higher frequency than before. He had 8 hours and needed 19 more genetic potential points. Logan gritted his teeth and moved deeper into the transition forest, hunting with growing desperation and determination. The next creature was a pack of 3 crystal-scaled lizards, each the size of a large dog, with tails that ended in blade-like protrusions. They coordinated their attacks, one distracting while the others flanked, and Logan took a deep slash across his ribs before he managed to kill the first one. The pain was incredible, blood soaking his shirt, but his enhanced constitution kept him moving. He used the first lizard's corpse as a shield, blocking the other's attacks while he grabbed one by the tail and slammed it against a tree with strength that surprised even him. The third lizard fled, but Logan had absorbed genes from 2 of the more's genetic potential. 87-100 an hour. Later, he encountered a bird creature with razor feathers and a wingspan of 4 meters. It attacked from above, diving with talons extended, and Logan barely managed to dodge. The fight became a deadly game of cat and mouse through the forest, Logan using the massive trees for cover while the bird circled and struck. He finally brought it down by timing a leap perfectly, grabbing its leg as it dove and using his weight to slam it to the ground. The bird's talons opened deep gashes in Logan's shoulder, but he managed to pin it long enough to break its neck. Genetic. Potential. 92-100. The wounds were serious now. Logan's shirt was more blood than fabric, his body aching from electrical burns, cuts, and impacts. But he was so close, just 8 more points, and the interface showed he still had 4 hours remaining. He pushed deeper into the forest, leaving a trail of silver and red blood behind him, his enhanced healing already working to close the worst of the wounds, but not fast enough. That's when he found the cave. It was hidden behind a waterfall of glowing liquid, not water exactly, but something that hummed with energy. The interface provided no information about it, the AI assistants now almost completely silent. Logan approached carefully, his instincts screaming danger, but also sensing opportunity. Inside the cave, the walls were covered in crystalline formations that pulsed with different colors: blues, greens, purples, reds, and in the center of the main chamber, sleeping on a bed of these crystals, was a creature that made everything Logan had fought before seem insignificant. It looked vaguely feline, about the size of a tiger, but its body was covered in armored plates that seemed to be made of the same crystal as the cave walls. Its tail was long and segmented, ending in a cluster of spikes, and even in sleep it radiated power. The interface finally spoke, but only to confirm what Logan already knew. Rare, rank, Crystal Panther. Threat level, extreme warning. Creature exceeds tutorial difficulty parameters. Recommended action. Retreat. Logan stared at the sleeping panther and did the math. 8 genetic potential points needed. The storm rabbit had given him 8 points alone. A rare rank creature would easily give him enough to hit 100, maybe even exceed it. But the risk was enormous. If this thing woke up before Logan could gain an advantage, he was dead. No amount of enhanced reflexes or electrical resistance would save him from a rare rank predator. But Logan thought about his father's note, about the job ending, about 15 years of being invisible and powerless. He thought about the timer, counting down on tutorial mode, about standard mode requiring portal essence, about entering the real evolution world at the bottom of the hierarchy versus entering it already evolved. He thought about Emma and Marcus and the thousands of people who would soon be competing for the same limited resources, the same hunting grounds, the same opportunities to grow stronger. Logan moved silently deeper into the cave, his enhanced senses mapping the space, looking for any advantage. The crystal formations on the walls weren't just decorative, they were sharp, some of them jutting out at angles that could serve as weapons or hazards. The chamber had multiple exits, narrow tunnels that the large panther probably couldn't follow through easily. And most importantly, Logan noticed that the creature was sleeping directly beneath a massive crystal stalactite, easily 2 meters long and tapered to a point, hanging from the cave's ceiling like a sword of Damocles. A plan formed in Logan's mind. Stupid, desperate, probably suicidal, but possible. He would need perfect timing, absolute commitment, and a lot of luck. Logan climbed the cave wall as silently as possible, his enhanced strength making the ascent manageable despite his injuries. The crystal formations provided handholds, though. Some of them cut his palms, adding fresh blood to the mix already soaking his clothes. He reached the ceiling and carefully positioned himself above the sleeping panther, next to the massive stalactite. Up close, he could see that it wasn't solidly attached. Time and the vibrations of the waterfall had weakened its connection to the ceiling. Logan wrapped his legs around the stalactite and began rocking it gently, testing its stability. It shifted slightly, and the panther's ear twitched, but it didn't wake. Logan increased the pressure, using his body weight and enhanced strength to work the crystal formation loose. His muscles screamed, his wounds reopened, and blood dripped, down onto the crystals below, each drop sounding impossibly loud in the cave's acoustics. The stalactite suddenly shifted more dramatically, and the panther's eyes snapped open, brilliant green with vertical pupils that immediately locked onto Logan's position. The creature roared, a sound that shook the entire cave, and began to rise. Logan didn't hesitate. He threw all his weight into one final desperate pull, and the stalactite broke free. Logan and 2 meters of razor-sharp crystal fell together, gravity and momentum combining into a deadly projectile. The panther tried to dodge, but it was too large, too close, and the stalactite caught it through the shoulder, pinning it to the cave floor with a sound like a gunshot. The creature shrieked, thrashing, its armored tail whipping wildly. One of the spikes caught Logan's leg as he fell, opening a gash from knee to ankle, and he hit the ground hard enough to see stars. But the panther was pinned, unable to fully rise. Its rare rank strength not enough to immediately free itself from 2 meters of crystal driven through its shoulder and into the stone below. Logan scrambled backward, his leg barely supporting his weight, and grabbed a smaller crystal formation that had broken free in the chaos. The panther's green eyes tracked him with pure hatred and intelligence that was almost human. Logan limped. Forward! The crystal shard held in both hands like a knife, and the panther's tail whipped at him again. He barely ducked under it, feeling the wind of its passage, then brought the shard down on the creature's neck, where the armor plating had gaps. The crystal punched through, and he stabbed again, and again, his enhanced strength driving the makeshift weapon deeper with each strike. The panther's struggles grew weaker, its roars turning to whimpers, and finally it went still. Logan collapsed next to the body, his entire body shaking, his vision swimming from blood loss. The interface pulsed urgently. Genetic material detected. Rare rank warning. Host condition. Critical recommendation. Immediate absorption for healing Logan. Mentally selected yes with the last of his concentration, and the tutorial's automatic absorption kicked in one final time. The genetic material flowed into him like liquid fire, burning through his system, rewriting his DNA at a fundamental level. He screamed as his wounds began to heal, as new muscle tissue formed, as his bones restructured and strengthened, as his entire body underwent rapid evolution. Genetic potential, 108/100 rare, crystal panther genes, absorbed major enhancement. Physical strength, plus 35%, major enhancement, armor development, plus 30%, major enhancement, predator instincts, plus 25%, special acquisition, beast soul, fragment, detected achievement, unlocked, tutorial completion at maximum potential, first evolution, now available. Warning. Standard mode transition, imminent. Logan lay on the crystal cave floor, gasping, his body glowing with absorbed genetic material, and a new interface window appeared that he'd never seen before. Beast Soul acquired, Crystal Panther, incomplete. Type, defensive-offensive hybrid ability, partial crystallization, temporarily. Hardened skin into crystal armor. Duration, 30 seconds. Cooldown, 10 minutes. Note, beast souls can be manifested in any realm. Note, beast souls can be traded only within evolution. World. Note, complete souls require multiple fragment acquisitions. Logan stared at the notification in wonder. The system had never mentioned beast souls before, but the ability was immediately clear. He could temporarily transform his skin into crystal armor like the panther's, giving him defensive capabilities far beyond his current level, and he could use it anywhere, even back on Earth. It was a trump card, an ace in the hole, something that could turn a losing fight into a victory. But the interface was already counting down. Tutorial completion in 10 seconds. Logan struggled. To his feet, his newly enhanced body feeling strange, powerful, dangerous. The panther's corpse lay where it had fallen. No magical dissolution in standard mode, just a dead creature that would need to be harvested and cooked for genetic benefits. He could feel the genetic potential thrumming under his skin, ready to be transformed into his first evolution. The countdown hit 0, and reality twisted. Logan didn't return to Earth. Instead, the cave around him dissolved and reformed into something else entirely. A massive stone plaza, surrounded by primitive buildings constructed from wood, and what looked like the same crystal formations from the Evolution World's caves. Dozens of people materialized around him, all of them looking as disoriented as Logan felt. All of them wearing earth clothes that were torn and bloody and completely out of place in this primitive setting. The interface updated with a cascade of new information. Tutorial complete standard evolution world accessed, first sanctuary realm. Current location, Shelter, Murrah 4782, South Korea regional assignment. Population, 1,847 residents shelter. Lord, Dante Kang shelter. Level, 2. Basic fortifications, limited resources. Portal essence required for Earth return, 1 unit, unlimited duration per visit. Current portal essence, 00 units. Warning, you cannot return to Earth until portal essence is acquired. Note, portal essence drops randomly from creature kills, approximately 10% chance. Note, Earth return portal will open at your departure location. Note, protect your portal essence. Theft will trap you indefinitely. Important. First sanctuary. Realm creatures cannot enter shelters. Evolution realms. First sanctuary. Current. Second. Sanctuary requires second evolution. Beyond, Logan's stomach dropped as the implications crashed over him. He'd entered the evolution world from Bukhansan Mountain, which meant, when he finally got portal essence and returned to Earth, he'd appear on that mountain. But more pressingly, he was trapped here until he acquired the essence, which meant hunting without the tutorial's automatic absorption, which meant cooking alien meat to extract genes, which meant surviving in this shelter with almost 2,000 other people, all of whom were probably just as desperate and dangerous as him. The Bitosh Plaza was chaos. People were shouting, crying, demanding answers that no one had. A girl who couldn't have been older than 14 was sobbing that she'd entered the tutorial on a dare and now couldn't get home. A businessman in a torn suit was screaming at his interface, trying to force it to explain what was happening. 2 young men were already fighting over something, their enhanced strength making their brawl destructive and violent. And standing on a raised platform at the far end of the plaza, watching the chaos with cold calculation, was a man who radiated empower. He was Korean, maybe 30 years old, with a lean, muscular build, and eyes that reflected light strangely, almost like an animal's. His clothes were primitive, leather and fur, weapons strapped to his belt, and his posture suggested someone who'd been here long enough to adapt, to evolve, to become something beyond human. Around his neck hung a crystalline medallion that pulsed with faint light, some kind of administrative symbol. The man raised his hand, and the air around him shimmered. When he spoke, his voice carried across the entire plaza with unnatural clarity. Welcome to Shelter 4782. My name is Dante Kang, and I am this shelter's lord. You will follow my rules, contribute to our defenses, and surrender 50% of all portal essence you acquire as tax for shelter protection and services. Refuse, and you will be expelled from the shelter's safety. The evolution world does not forgive weakness. Murmurs rippled through the crowd of new arrivals. Logan's enhanced senses picked up the fear and resentment in people's voices, but also the resignation. This Dante had clearly been here much longer than a few weeks. His entire bearing, his equipment, the established infrastructure around him suggested months of development, maybe even longer. The interface provided minimal information when Logan focused on Dante. User, Dante Kang Shelter Role, Lord, administrative privileges, active. Evolution stage, first evolution, complete, threat. Assessment, extreme first evolution, complete. The man had already undergone the transformation that Logan had just unlocked, which meant he was operating at a level far beyond even Logan's enhanced 100+ genetic potential. The shelter's other residents, Logan could see them now. Watching from the crude buildings, maybe 200 or 300 people in total, all looked hardened. Adapted to this world in ways the new arrivals weren't. Shelter assignments will be made by my lieutenants, Dante continued, gesturing to a group of 5 people standing near the platform, all of them looking nearly as dangerous as their leader. Food is earned through hunting contributions. Water is rationed. Violence within shelter limits is prohibited unless sanctioned. The Lord position can be challenged, but know that I have held it for 8 months and killed 17 challengers. Break these rules, and you die. Follow them, and you might survive long enough to evolve. 8 months. Logan's mind reeled. Dante had been one of the very first activated users, had entered when the phenomenon was still rare, had claimed this shelter and built his power base while everyone else was still figuring out the system existed. No wonder he was so far ahead. He'd had nearly a year to hunt, evolve, optimize his build, and establish absolute control. Shelter assignments will be made by my lieutenants, Dante continued. Food is earned through hunting contributions. Water is rationed. Violence within shelter limits is prohibited unless sanctioned. As Shelter Lord, I maintain the barrier defenses, control access to prime hunting territories, and manage the portal home. These privileges are earned through strength and maintained through results. Break my rules and you die. Follow them and you might survive long enough to evolve. Logan's mind raced through options and strategies. He had 108 genetic potential and could trigger his first evolution, which would put him on par with Dante in terms of raw power tier. But Dante had 8 months of experience, knowledge of this world, established authority, lieutenant's backing, him up, and lord privileges that gave him concrete advantages. A direct challenge would be stupid and probably fatal. But Logan also had advantages. He'd completed the tutorial at maximum potential, which meant he was starting stronger than most people ever would. He had a beast soul ability that no one knew about, a trump card for emergencies. And most importantly, he'd spent 15 years learning how to be invisible, how to fly under the radar, how to survive in a hierarchy by not drawing attention until the moment was right. One of Dante's lieutenants, a woman with close-cropped hair and scars across her arms, began organizing the new arrivals into groups, assigning them to crude barracks built against the shelter's outer wall. Logan allowed himself to be herded with the others, keeping his head down, his enhanced body consciously restraining its power to appear average. Around him, people were panicking, arguing, some trying to access their interfaces to force a return to Earth that the system wouldn't allow without portal essence. The barracks were barely more than lean-tos, wooden frames covered with leather, hemorrhoids packed with sleeping mats that smelled of mold and sweat. Logan claimed a corner spot and immediately pulled up his interface, studying the new information available in standard mode. The AI no longer provided helpful commentary, just raw data. His genetic potential was listed as 108 to 100 with a pulsing notification. First evolution available. Select specialization path. Logan opened the evolution menu and his breath caught at the options displayed. Based on the genes he'd absorbed during the tutorial, he had access to 5 different evolution paths. Predator path emphasizes speed, strength, and hunting instincts. Defender path emphasizes armor, constitution, and defensive abilities. Voltage path emphasizes electrical abilities and nervous system enhancement. Hybrid path, balanced combination of absorbed traits. Crystal path, rare option, emphasizes the Crystal Panther's unique genetics. Each path would fundamentally transform his body, pushing him past baseline human limitations into something new. The descriptions were minimal now, no helpful AI guidance about which was optimal, just basic parameters. Logan studied them carefully, weighing options against the situation he found himself in. The Predator path would make him a better hunter, faster and stronger, good for solo survival. The defender path would keep him alive longer, but offered less offensive power. The voltage path was intriguing, but seemed too specialized. The hybrid path was safe, but didn't excel at anything particular. But the crystal path, marked as rare because of the crystal panther genes, that was interesting. The description suggested his body would develop crystalline reinforcement, making him both offensive and defensive, combining the best traits of the rare rank creature he'd barely managed to kill. It was a rare path that most people would never have access to, an edge that could make the difference in fights against evolved opponents. Logan was about to select the crystal path when voices outside the barracks made him pause. He listened, with his enhanced hearing as two of Dante's lieutenants talked quietly. "These new arrivals are weak," one said, male voice, dismissive. "Half of them won't survive their first hunt outside the shelter." "Doesn't matter," the woman responded, the same scarred lieutenant from earlier. "Dante only cares about the portal essence tax and maintaining his lord status. Let them die hunting, long as we get our 50% from survivors. The Lord privileges alone generate enough resources to keep us comfortable." True. Though I heard one of the newbies is reading at 108 potential, that's high for tutorial completion. Might be worth recruiting before he wastes it on a bad evolution choice. Logan's blood went cold. They could read his genetic potential? The interface hadn't mentioned that was visible to others. He quickly pulled up his status menu and found a new option: privacy settings. With a thought, he activated Conceal Genetic Data, and his displayed potential dropped to a generic Evolved, unranked. But the damage might already be done. If Dante's people were tracking new arrivals by potential, they'd already flagged Logan as someone worth watching or recruiting or eliminating as a potential threat. He needed to evolve quickly before they made their move. But he also needed to choose wisely because this decision would define his capabilities for the foreseeable future. A commotion outside the barracks interrupted his thoughts. Logan moved to the entrance and saw a crowd gathering in the plaza. At the center, one of the new arrivals, the businessman in the torn suit from earlier, was being dragged before Dante's platform by two of the lieutenants. "This one tried to steal food from the storage house," the male lieutenant announced, throwing the businessman to the ground. "Claims he hasn't eaten in 2 days and can't hunt because he's too weak." Dante looked down at the man with cold eyes, the Lord medallion around his neck pulsing faintly. The rules were clear. Food is earned, theft is punished. "Please," the businessman begged, his hands raised. "I have a family and soul. I need to get strong enough to hunt, to earn essence, to go back to them. Just one meal. I'll work it off, I promise." Dante's hand moved in a blur, and suddenly the businessman was clutching his throat, blood pouring between his fingers. The shelter leader hadn't even left the platform, had just gestured, and somehow the man's throat had opened like he'd been cut by an invisible blade. The businessman collapsed, twitching, and within 30 seconds he was still. The crowd was silent. Logan felt his enhanced heart pounding, felt the predator instincts from the crystal panther genes screaming at him to run or fight or do something. But he forced himself to remain still, to watch, to learn. This was the reality of the evolution world. Power ruled absolutely, and Dante had made himself untouchable through a combination of evolution, brutality, strategic control of resources, and the concrete advantages of holding the Lord position. "Remove the body and prepare it for the meal hall," Dante ordered, his voice completely emotionless. "Waste nothing. The rest of you remember this. My shelter, my rules. Follow them and you eat. Break them and you become food. This is the new world. Adapt or die." Logan returned to the barracks feeling sick. The casual brutality, the threat of cannibalism barely disguised as resource management, the absolute power Dante wielded. It was everything wrong with human nature, given superhuman strength and no oversight. And Logan was trapped here, in this shelter, under this tyrant's rule, until he could hunt enough creatures to randomly acquire portal essence and return to Earth. He pulled up the evolution menu again, his decision crystallizing. The crystal. Path wasn't just about offense and defense, it was about survival, about becoming hard enough that people like Dante couldn't casually kill him with a gesture. Logan selected it before he could second-guess himself. Evolution path. Selected, crystal path, warning, evolution process will take 6 hours. Warning, user will be vulnerable during transformation. Proceed? Yes, no. Logan looked around the barracks at the other new arrivals, most of them too shocked or scared to be threats. He found the most isolated corner, wedged himself into it so no one could approach from behind, and mentally selected yes. The transformation hit like a freight train. Logan's body began to burn from the inside out, his genetic material restructuring at a fundamental level. He bit down on his jacket sleeve to muffle his screams as his bones lengthened and thickened, as his muscles tore and reformed denser and stronger, as crystalline structures began growing beneath his skin like armor plating. His vision went white with pain, his enhanced healing working overtime to manage the trauma of forced evolution. 6 hours of agony that felt like 6 days. Logan drifted in and out of consciousness, dimly aware of other residents checking on him, of someone trying to steal his shoes before someone else stopped them, of the sound of hunting parties leaving and returning, of screams in the distance that might have been inside or outside the shelter. When the transformation finally ended and Logan opened his eyes, the world looked different. His enhanced vision had become even sharper, capable of distinguishing individual wavelengths of color. His hearing picked up conversations from across the shelter plaza. His strength had multiplied. When he flexed his hand experimentally, he could feel the power thrumming under his skin, barely contained. The interface updated, evolution complete current status, first evolution, crystal warrior genetic potential, reset to 00200, second evolution requires 200 points. Physical enhancements. Sun 50% strength, some 120% speed, sub 200% constitution. Special traits, crystalline bone structure, enhanced regeneration, improved combat instincts, beast soul, crystal panther, incomplete, synergizes with evolution path. Note, repeated hunting of same. Creature species yields diminishing returns. Note, second evolution grants access to second sanctuary realm and inherent abilities. Logan stood slowly, his body feeling alien and familiar at the same time. He was taller now, maybe 3 inches, his frame filled out with muscle that looked carved from stone. When he focused, he could see faint crystalline patterns beneath his skin, like veins made of gemstone. And when he activated his beast soul ability experimentally, his skin hardened into transparent crystal armor that made him look like a living statue for 30 seconds before fading. The note about second evolution caught his attention. Reaching 200 genetic potential would not only transform his body further, but grant him access to a new realm and inherent abilities. Powers like flight, invisibility, shape-shifting, cloning. True supernatural abilities beyond just enhanced physicals and beast souls. That was the path forward, the next tier of evolution that would separate the truly powerful from those stuck in the first sanctuary grinding creature kills. He was strong now. Not Dante-level strong, probably, but no longer helpless. No longer invisible by necessity, but by choice. Logan pulled his privacy settings back up and confirmed his genetic data was still concealed. No sense advertising his evolution until he understood the shelter's full power dynamics. The barracks had cleared out while he'd been transforming. Most of the new arrivals either sent on hunting parties or hiding in other corners of the shelter. Logan stepped outside, into the evolution world's perpetual twilight. The purple sky was darkening toward what passed for night here, the 3 moons rising higher. The shelter was built in a clearing, surrounded by the massive trees of the forest, with crude watchtowers at the corners and a wooden palisade that looked barely adequate against any serious threat. But the shelter itself was safe, the barrier Dante maintained, as Shelter Lord ensured no creatures could enter the compound. That was one of the Lord privileges, Logan realized, and a powerful incentive for residents to maintain the existing power structure. Outside the walls, death. Inside, safety, as long as you followed the rules. Logan's knew combat instincts immediately, catalogued weaknesses in the fortifications, escape routes, choke points. But more importantly, His enhanced senses picked up something else. The smell of cooking meat from the direction of the central fire pit, where several of the established residents were roasting what looked like the same storm rabbit creatures Logan had fought during his tutorial. His stomach growled with hunger he hadn't noticed during the evolution. But approaching the fire pit meant revealing himself, meant interaction with Dante's people, meant risk. Logan was about to retreat when a voice spoke behind him. "You evolved." It was Emma. She stood there in torn school uniform, her glasses somehow still intact, looking exhausted and scared but alive. "I saw you in the corner of the barracks, went through the same thing yesterday. We were in tutorial groups but got assigned to the same shelter." Logan felt a rush of relief at seeing a familiar face. "You made it. Your evolution. What path?" "Hybrid," Emma said quietly. "Played it safe. I'm not strong like you probably are now, but I'm balanced. Good enough to hunt in groups, not good enough to challenge anyone." She glanced toward Dante's platform, where the shelter leader was holding court with his lieutenants, the Lord Medallion gleaming around his neck. "That's the play here, Logan. Stay under the radar, contribute enough to not get expelled, gather. Portal essence slowly. Don't try to be a hero." "Did you get any essence yet?" Logan asked. Emma shook her head. 17 hunts, 0 essence drops. The RNG is brutal. Some people got lucky on their first kill. Others have been here a week with nothing. That's why Dante's tax works. People get desperate, take his deals, become dependent on his organization. He controls the shelter's lord privileges, which means he controls the barrier, the prime hunting territories, everything. And he makes sure everyone knows it. Logan's enhanced mind was already working through the mathematics. 10% drop rate meant an average of 10 kills per essence. But true random distribution meant some people could go 50 kills without a drop, while others might get 3 in a row. And Dante was taking 50% of whatever people earned, which meant most residents were trapped in the shelter indefinitely. Too weak to hunt effectively, too desperate to challenge the system. "There has to be a way to break his control," Logan said quietly. Emma's expression hardened. "There have been attempts. Dante mentioned 17 challengers for the Lord position. All dead. He's been here 8 months, Logan. 8 months of hunting, evolving, optimizing his build while keeping everyone else weak. And the Lord position itself gives advantages we probably don't even know about. Plus his lieutenants are all first. Evolution too, loyal because he feeds them better, gives them privileges, cuts them into the essence tax revenue. What about the other shelters? Could we reach one? Try to join somewhere else? Shelters are spaced hundreds of kilometers apart. In the evolution world, Emma explained. The journey would take days, maybe weeks, through territory full of creatures we can't handle. And there's no guarantee another shelter would be better. For all we know, they're all run by tyrants just like Dante. This might be the new normal. Logan clenched his fists, feeling the crystalline structures beneath his skin respond to his emotion. What about Marcus? Did he make it to this shelter? Emma's expression darkened. He's here, but he made a different choice than us. She gestured toward the fire pit where a group was gathered. Among them, Logan spotted Marcus in conversation with one of Dante's lieutenants, laughing at something, looking comfortable in a way that made Logan's stomach turn. He joined Dante's inner circle on day 1, offered his services, agreed to enforce the rules, became part of the system. He's been on hunting parties with the lieutenants, getting better creature kills, absorbing higher quality genes. So he's a collaborator, Logan said flatly. He's a survivor, Emma corrected, just like we all are. Don't judge too harshly. Everyone's doing what they think will keep them alive and get them home. She pulled out a small leather pouch from inside her jacket. I've been saving these. Dried meat from common creatures. It's not much for genetic enhancement anymore. Without the tutorial's automatic absorption, you need to cook the meat properly, and even then you get maybe 1 or 2 potential points from eating a whole creature if you're lucky. And that's only if you haven't hunted that species too much already. Logan accepted a piece of the dried meat gratefully and bit into it. The taste was strange. Somewhere between beef and fish, with an underlying sweetness that was probably from the creatures in crystalline biology. As he chewed, he felt a faint warmth spread through his body, his interface confirming. Genetic material absorbed, common rank, 0.5 potential. Storm rabbit. Genetics, first consumption. Half a point from a whole meal. The mathematics of progression, in standard mode, were brutal. To reach 200 potential for his second evolution, Logan would need to kill and properly cook 400 common creatures, assuming he didn't hunt the same species repeatedly. But the interface had noted this was his first storm rabbit consumption, which meant eating more storm rabbits would yield even less as his body adapted to their genetic material. "How do hunting parties work?" Logan asked. Emma led him away from the fire pit toward a bulletin board made of wooden planks near the shelter's main gate. Crude notices were posted, most written in Korean, but some in English or other languages. People form groups and register with the gate guards, Dante's people. They track who leaves, who returns, what they bring back. 50% of all creature corpses go to the shelter's storage for communal meals. 50% of any portal essence goes directly to Dante as Lord Tax for maintaining the shelter and barrier. You can try to hide drops, but they search everyone coming back through the gate. Logan studied the postings. Most were recruitment notices. Need tank for storm rabbit territory. Speed types wanted for bird creature hunting. Experienced group seeking 5th member, defender class only. The bulletin board revealed the shelter's emerging economy. People specializing, forming parties based on evolution paths, treating the evolution world like some kind of twisted MMO game. But other notices were darker. Information wanted. Shelter. Defenses offered payment in creature meat. Buying portal essence, will trade anything, was posted by someone desperate enough to try circumventing Dante's tax. And most chilling. Notice, resident number 892 expelled from shelter for hoarding. Body found 3 hours later, partially eaten. Remember shelter rules. "The creatures don't come into the shelter?" Logan asked, processing the implications of that. "Last notice. The shelter has a barrier that the Lord controls," Emma explained. "Part of why Dante can control everything. As long as you're inside the walls, you're safe from creature attacks. Step outside, and you're in active hunting grounds. Creatures can't breach the shelter itself, but get expelled, and you're usually dead within hours, unless you can reach another shelter or survive in the wilderness. And Dante's been very clear about what happens to troublemakers." Logan's enhanced hearing picked up a commotion at the shelter's main gate. A hunting party was returning, 5 people looking exhausted and bloodied, dragging the corpses of what looked like crystal-scaled lizards, the same species Logan had fought in tutorial. Mode. The bodies were real, solid, requiring physical effort to transport. No magical dissolution in standard mode. The gate guards immediately moved to inspect the hall, separating corpses into piles, searching the hunters' bags and pockets with practiced efficiency. One of the hunters, a young woman maybe 20 years old, tried to palm something small and glowing. A gate guard caught her wrist and pried open her fingers, revealing a small crystalline chunk that pulsed with dimensional energy. "Portal essence! Tax evasion!" the guard announced loudly, and the plaza began to fill with residents drawn by the entertainment or the warning. Dante himself emerged from his quarters, the Lord Medallion around his neck glowing brighter as he approached, moving with predatory grace toward the gate. "Please," the young woman begged, tears streaming down her face. "I've been here 9 days. This is my first essence drop. I just want to see my family for a few hours. I swear I'll come back." Dante took the essence from the guard and held it up to the light. "The rules exist for everyone's protection. 50% tax funds the shelter's defenses, pays the guards, maintains the barrier that keeps you all alive. Without contribution, the shelter fails. Without the shelter, you all die." He pocketed the essence, half of the woman's only chance of returning home. "You and your party will donate your entire haul to the communal food stores as penalty. Attempt tax evasion again, and you'll be expelled." The young woman collapsed to her knees, sobbing. Dante had taken half her essence as tax, which meant she'd gotten to keep the other half at least. but her party members were shooting resentful glares at Dante that none of them were brave enough to voice openly. The crowd dispersed slowly, the lesson reinforced. Dante's rules were absolute, and hope of returning to Earth was a privilege he could tax and control. Logan felt rage building in his chest, the crystalline structures under his skin heating with emotion. This was wrong on every level, a system designed to keep people trapped and desperate, to concentrate power in the hands of a tyrant who'd gotten lucky with early evolution and claimed the Lord position. But charging in with righteous anger would accomplish nothing except getting Logan killed or expelled, which was effectively the same thing. "I need to hunt," Logan said quietly to Emma. "I need to get stronger, learn the territory, find an advantage. There has to be a way to break this system." Emma studied his face for a long moment. "You're going to try anyway, aren't you? Try to be the hero, challenge Dante for the Lord position, free the shelter." She sighed. "I'll help how I can, but Logan, be smart about it. Dante's been here 8 months. He's hunted rare creatures we've never seen, absorbed genes from dozens of species, optimized his evolution path. Whatever advantage you think you have, he's probably counted it 10 times already. And the Lord position itself gives him powers we don't fully understand." Logan nodded, but internally he was already planning. His crystal path evolution was rare, something Dante might not have encountered. His beast soul ability was a secret trump card that worked in any realm. And most importantly, Logan had spent 15 years learning how to observe, to wait, to find weaknesses in systems that seemed impenetrable. There was always a weak point, always a moment of vulnerability, always a way to turn invisible status into unexpected power. "I need to join a hunting party," Logan said. "Get outside the shelter, see what the territory actually looks like, start building genetic potential. Can you recommend any groups that aren't Dante's loyalists?" Emma pulled out a crude map drawn on hide parchment. "There's a woman named Sarah Chen, Defender Path, runs a small independent group. 3 regular members. They hunt uncommon territories about 2 hours from the shelter. Not the best returns, but consistent and relatively safe. They lost someone yesterday to a crystal mantis ambush, so they might be recruiting." Crystal mantis. Logan's combat instincts immediately flagged that as a threat, uncommon rank, like the storm rabbits but meaner. Fast, armored, usually travel in pairs. Sarah's group specializes in tank and spank tactics. She holds aggro while the damage dealers work from range. They're looking for another close-range fighter to help her on the front line. Fair warning, though, you won't find rare creatures near the shelter. Dante's people control those territories. The stronger the creature, the farther from safety you have to go. Logan absorbed this information, his mind already adapting to the evolution world's combat terminology and territorial structure. Tank, damage dealers, aggro management, territory control based on creature strength. It all made strategic sense. The shelter was a safe zone surrounded by common creature spawns, with uncommon ranks further out, and rare creatures in distant, dangerous areas that required significant travel and risk. "Where can I find Sarah?" "Barracks 3, south side. But Logan," Emma grabbed his arm as he started to turn away. "Be careful. Not everyone here is a good person. Some people came through the tutorial and discovered they liked having power over others. Some are desperate enough to kill for essence or food. Trust slowly, and remember, if someone steals your portal essence, you're trapped here forever. Guard it with your life." Logan squeezed her hand in acknowledgement and made his way toward Barracks 3. The shelter was larger than he'd initially realized, maybe covering an area the size of several city blocks, with crude structures packed tightly together. Residents watched him pass with varying degrees of suspicion or indifference. He noticed that most people displayed their evolution status openly. First evolution users had a certain bearing, a confidence in their movement that baseline or pre-evolution humans lacked. Logan kept his own evolution suppressed, moving with deliberately clumsy steps, slouching to hide his increased height. The act of invisibility was instinctive after years of practice, and even with enhanced physical capabilities, he could make himself seem unremarkable, unthreatening, beneath notice. Barracks 3 was slightly better constructed than the one Logan had evolved in, with actual walls instead of just hide coverings. He found Sarah Chen sitting outside, sharpening a crude spear made from what looked like creature bone. She was maybe 30 years old, compact and muscular, with scars across her forearms and a calculating look in her eyes. "You're one of the new arrivals," Sarah said without preamble, not looking up from her work. "Evolved already, trying to hide it. Crystal path, if I had to guess from the way your joints move. What do you want?" Logan abandoned his attempt at concealment. Apparently, some people had enough combat experience to read body mechanics, even through deliberate disguise. "I heard you lost someone and might be recruiting. I need hunting experience and genetic material. You need a frontline fighter." Sarah finally looked up, studying Logan with professional assessment. "Crystal path is rare. Most people went hybrid or predator in tutorial mode. You got lucky with a rare creature kill?" "Crystal panther," Logan admitted. "Barely survived it." Sarah's eyebrows rose. "That's elite hunting for tutorial mode. You completed at high potential." It wasn't a question. "And now you want to run with my group instead of joining Dante's inner circle like most high-potential users? What's your angle?" "I don't work for tyrants," Logan said simply, "and I need to understand the evolution world's systems before I make any long-term decisions." Sarah considered this for a long moment, then nodded. "Honesty. I appreciate that, even if you're probably lying about your ultimate goals." She stood, testing the spear's balance. "We hunt tomorrow at dawn. 4-hour expedition into uncommon territory, targeting storm rabbits and crystal lizards primarily. 50-50 split on all materials after Dante's tax. No heroics, no solo. Charges, you follow formation and take orders. First hunt is probationary. You screw up or endanger the team, you're out. Questions?" "What's the team composition?" "Me as primary tank, defender evolution specialized in high constitution and threat generation. Kyle and Jenna, both hybrid evolution, handle ranged harassment and flanking. You would be secondary frontline, helping me control creature positioning, while the others deal damage. We average 3 to 5 kills per expedition, usually 1 to 2 uncommons and 2 to 3 commons. Portal essence drops have been running about standard probability. We've gotten 4 drops across 20 expeditions. 2 went to Dante as Lord Tax. The other 2 were distributed by lottery among team members." Logan did the math. 20 expeditions, roughly 60 to 80 kills, 4 essence drops. Actually slightly above the stated 10% drop rate, but still brutally slow for people desperate to return home. "What about rare creature territories?" Sarah's expression hardened. "Off-limits for independent groups. Dante's lieutenants control access to known rare spawns, and those are all deep in the forest, hours away from shelter safety. They run organized. Raids with 10 to 15 evolved users. Claim all the drops, keep the genetic material for themselves, or sell it at premium prices to loyalists. Independent hunters who try to poach rare territories get expelled or worse. The distance itself is a defense. Stronger creatures spawn farther from the shelter, and without Lord approval, you're risking your life even traveling that far. And everyone just accepts this? What choice do we have?" Sarah gestured around. "The shelter." "Dante got here first, claimed the Lord position when the shelter was practically empty, evolved first, learned the systems while everyone else was still in tutorial mode. The Lord medallion he wears isn't just symbolic. It gives him actual control over the barrier, access to shelter management systems, advantages in the evolution world we're still discovering. He built a structure where challenging him means fighting someone with 8 months of optimization, plus administrative powers, plus 5 first evolution lieutenants. Most people choose slow progression over suicide. But you're building an independent group, Logan pointed out. That's a form of resistance. Sarah smiled grimly. That's building a support network. If things change, if Dante's system collapses, or someone stronger emerges, I want allies who aren't corrupted by his organization. But I'm not stupid enough to challenge him directly. First evolution against first evolution, he'd destroy me. He's had months to hunt rares, absorb better genes, optimize his build. I'm still working through uncommon rank materials and dealing with diminishing returns from species I've hunted too many times. Logan understood the calculation. Sarah was hedging her bets, maintaining independence without direct confrontation. positioning herself to adapt if the power structure shifted. It was smart, pragmatic, and exactly the kind of thinking Logan needed to learn if he wanted to survive long enough to actually challenge Dante's control. "I'm in," Logan said. "Dawn tomorrow. What equipment do I need?" "Bring whatever you have. We've got spare weapons, bone spears, crystal daggers, crude clubs. Nothing fancy until you can afford better from the shelter's craftsmen." Sarah pointed toward a section of buildings near the storage house. "There's an emerging economy. People with crafting skills trade equipment for essence or food. Hunters who get lucky with essence can buy better gear. It's primitive but functional." Logan thanked her and headed toward the crafting district, his mind processing the shelter's social and economic structures. What had started as a survival situation had evolved into a complex society with hierarchies, specializations, trade networks, and political dynamics. Dante sat at the top as an autocrat with lord privileges, but beneath him was an entire ecosystem of cooperation and competition that resembled human civilization throughout history, just compressed into months instead of centuries. The craftsmen were working by firelight, their shops open-air affairs with hide awnings and crude workbenches. Logan saw a woman weaving leather armor from creature hides, a man sharpening bone weapons with surprising precision, another carving what looked like crystalline jewelry that probably had some kind of enhancement properties. Prices were posted: 1 piece of uncommon creature meat for a basic weapon, 5 pieces for armor, portal essence for premium items. Logan had nothing to trade yet, but he studied the available equipment with his enhanced combat instincts. Most of it was primitive but effective, weapons weighted properly for evolved human strength, armor designed to deflect rather than fully stop creature attacks. One stall caught his attention. An elderly Korean man was engraving patterns into crystal shards, and the finished products emitted faint glows that suggested magical or technological enhancement. "Those are enhancement crystals," a voice said beside Logan. Marcus had appeared with his usual timing, looking comfortable and well-fed in contrast to most shelter residents. His clothes were better quality leather, and he wore a small pouch in his belt that probably contained portal essence. "Old Man Kim figured out that creature crystals can store and amplify genetic abilities if you carve the right patterns. Costs 3 portal essence per crystal, but they give you about 20% boost to your evolution path's primary attribute. Dante's people get first pick, of course." Logan turned to face Marcus, his expression neutral. "I heard you joined Dante's organization." Marcus shrugged, unbothered by the implicit accusation. "I saw the reality and adapted. Dante's not going anywhere, Logan. He's too strong, too established, too smart about maintaining control. He's been here 8 months building this system. The Lord position gives him concrete advantages we probably don't even understand yet. Fighting him is suicide. Working with him is the fastest path to accumulating essence and getting home." He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "I could put in a word for you. Your crystal path evolution is valuable. Dante's always looking for capable fighters. You'd get better hunting assignments, priority on rare creature raids, actual payment in essence instead of lottery chances. And I'd have to enforce his rules," Logan said. "Participate in his system of oppression." "Oppression?" Marcus laughed. "This is survival, not politics. Dante built order out of chaos. Without him, this shelter would be complete anarchy. People killing each other over food, no organized defense, no path home. Yeah, his methods are harsh, but they work. And isn't working what matters in the end?" Logan studied Marcus carefully, trying to determine if his former bully actually believed what he was saying, or if this was just convenient rationalization. 3 days ago, Dante executed someone for stealing food, then had the body prepared as meat for the meal hall. Marcus's expression flickered with something, discomfort maybe, or rationalization working overtime. That guy knew the rules and broke them anyway. Dante can't show weakness or the whole system collapses. It's game theory, Logan. Harsh punishment, maintains deterrence, keeps everyone else in line, prevents worse violence. You're smart. You should understand this. "I understand that power without accountability becomes tyranny," Logan said, "and I understand that just because something maintains order doesn't make it right." Right and wrong are Earth concepts, Marcus countered. This is the first sanctuary. Different rules apply. You'll figure that out eventually, probably after. You've spent a few weeks hunting and realize how much easier life is when you cooperate with the power structure instead of fighting it. He gestured toward Dante's quarters. Offer stands. Think about it. You could be comfortable instead of scraping by with Sarah Chen's group, hunting common creatures for diminishing returns while Dante's people feast on rare rank genetics, Marcus walked away, leaving Logan standing in the craftsman's district with conflicting emotions churning through his enhanced physiology. Part of him understood Marcus's logic. Cooperation with existing power structures was often the most efficient in survival strategy. But another part, the part that had endured years of humiliation and powerlessness, rebelled against the idea of becoming part of someone else's oppressive system. Logan returned to his barracks as the evolution world's equivalent of night fully descended. The purple sky darkened to near black, the 3 moons providing silver illumination that cast strange shadows across the shelter. Residents settled into their quarters, cooking fires dimming, conversations quieting. Logan found his corner and sat with his back against the wall, pulling up his interface to study the information available in standard mode. His genetic potential was 0 of 200, reset after first evolution. The path to second evolution would be long and dangerous, 4 times as much potential needed, requiring higher rank creature kills, more sophisticated cooking techniques, better hunting strategies, and careful management of diminishing returns from repeated species hunting. But second evolution would grant him access to the second sanctuary realm and inherent abilities. True supernatural powers like flight, invisibility, shape-shifting that went beyond physical enhancement. The interface also showed detailed information about portal essence and Earth return protocols. Using one essence opened a portal back to Earth that the user could keep open indefinitely, stay on Earth for hours, days, weeks, as long as desired. But returning to the evolution world required another essence, and the portal would place them back in the same shelter. This created the trap Dante exploited. People needed at least 2 essence to make Earth visits worthwhile, but accumulating 2 essence at 10% drop rates and 50% tax meant significant hunting investments. Around midnight, Logan's rest was shattered by screams from outside, high-pitched, terrified, cutting through the night's relative quiet. He was on his feet instantly, his enhanced body moving before his conscious mind registered the decision. Other residents were emerging from barracks, confused and scared, all looking toward the shelter's western wall. Something was wrong with the barrier. Logan could see it now. The faint shimmer in the air that marked the protective field was flickering, sections of it dimming and brightening irregularly. And through the gaps, creatures were testing the defenses. Storm rabbits, crystal lizards, things Logan didn't recognize, all pressing against the weakening barrier with increasing confidence. Dante appeared on his platform, his evolution enhanced, voice carrying across the entire shelter. Barrier malfunction. All evolved users to defensive positions, hunters to the walls. Everyone else shelter in the barracks and do not interfere. Logan joined the rush toward the western wall, his combat instincts identifying this as both crisis and opportunity. If the barrier fully failed, the shelter would be overrun. But in the chaos of defense, hierarchies might blur, Dante's absolute control might fracture, and Logan might finally see how the shelter's power dynamics actually functioned under pressure. Sarah was already at the wall with her hunting group, her bone spear ready, her defensive stance solid despite the visible fear in her eyes. "If they breach," she said quickly as Logan arrived, "we hold this section. Standard formation. I take point, you support flanks, Kyle and Jenna handle ranged." Harassment. Don't engage anything above uncommon rank alone. The barrier flickered again, and a storm rabbit pushed through, electricity crackling around its crystalline horns. Logan moved without thinking, his crystal path evolution lending speed and power to his strike. He grabbed a bone spear from a weapons rack and threw it with enhanced strength, catching the rabbit mid-leap, pinning it to the ground. The creature thrashed, electricity discharging wildly, but Logan was already moving, his beast soul activating. his skin hardening into crystal armor as he closed the distance and finished the kill with brutal efficiency. The rabbit's corpse remained. Where it fell, no magical dissolution in standard mode. Logan would have to harvest and cook it later if he wanted any genetic benefit. But around him, other defenders were engaging creatures that breached the failing barrier, and the shelter plaza was rapidly becoming a battlefield. 3 crystal lizards pushed through near Logan's position, their blade-tipped tails whipping at defenders who weren't fast enough to dodge. One connected with a baseline human, someone who hadn't evolved yet, probably a recent arrival, and opened his stomach with casual ease. The man went down screaming, blood pooling, and Logan felt rage surge through his enhanced system. He activated Hoyd, his beast soul fully, crystal armor coating his skin, and charged the nearest lizard. The creature's tail struck his crystallized torso and bounced off with a sound like shattering glass. Logan's spear punched through the lizard's scales, his evolved strength driving the bone weapon deep. The second lizard tried to flank him, but Sarah was there, her defensive abilities creating some kind of threat aura that forced the creature to focus on her instead. Kyle and Jenna pelted it with thrown crystal shards from the wall top, their hybrid evolution paths giving them enough coordination to harry the creature, while Sarah tanked its attacks. The third lizard was heading toward the fallen defender, clearly recognizing easy prey. Logan intercepted it, his crystal armor still active, and grappled the creature despite its thrashing. The blade tail opened cuts across his back, shallow, wounds that would have been fatal without his armor and constitution, and Logan used the pain to fuel his attack. He threw the lizard against the wooden palisade with enough force to crack both wood and chitin, then finished it with his spear while it was stunned. Around the shelter, similar scenes were playing out. Evolved users holding defensive positions, baseline humans fleeing to barracks, creatures pushing through the weakening barrier in increasing numbers. But Logan noticed something crucial. Dante and his lieutenants weren't fighting. They stood on their platform, watching, occasionally calling out orders, but not engaging directly despite being the shelter's strongest defenders. They were letting the shelter's residents bear the brunt of the attack, Logan realized. Letting people get injured, killed, exhausted, while Dante's inner circle conserved their strength and maintained their position of power. It was strategically sound. Why risk valuable fighters when expendable residents could handle the threat? But morally reprehensible. A roar from the forest beyond the barrier made everyone freeze. Something large was approaching, something that made the uncommon rank creatures seem insignificant. Logan's enhanced senses picked up the ground vibrating with heavy footfalls, trees crashing, a predator's hunting call that resonated in his crystalline bone structure. The barrier flickered, one final time, and failed completely. And into the shelter's clearing stepped a creature that defied Logan's limited experience. It was vaguely bear-shaped, but twice the size, covered in rocky armor that looked like living stone, with claws that glowed with volcanic heat. The interface finally provided classification. Rare rank, stone bear, threat level, extreme, the. Shelter's residents scattered, defensive positions collapsing, people fleeing toward barracks or the far side of the compound. The stone bear roared again and charged into the plaza, each step cracking the ground, its presence radiating power that made Logan's combat instincts scream warnings about inadequacy and imminent death. Dante finally moved. He stepped off his platform and walked calmly toward the charging rare-rank creature, and his body began to change. This was First Evolution's full manifestation. Dante's skin darkened to midnight black, his eyes glowed silver, and blades of shadow materialized in his hands that seemed to absorb light itself. The Lord Medallion around his neck blazed with power, amplifying his transformation beyond what a normal First Evolution should achieve. His entire presence shifted from human to predator, and when he met the stone bear's charge, the impact created a shockwave that flattened nearby structures. Logan watched in horrible fascination as Dante fought the rare creature with casual superiority. His shadow blades cut through the bear's stone armor like it was paper. His speed made the massive creature look slow and clumsy. Within 2 minutes, The stone bear was wounded, bleeding molten blood, struggling to defend against attacks it couldn't track. Within 5 minutes, it was dead. Dante standing over its corpse without visible injury, his shadow blades dissipating as he returned to human form. The shelter was silent. Dante had just demonstrated the gulf between first evolution at his level and everyone else. He'd killed a rare rank creature solo that would have required 10 or 15 regular evolved users working in perfect coordination. And he'd made it look easy. Barrier will be repaired by morning, Dante announced, his voice perfectly steady despite the exertion. Harvest the creature corpses. Standard distribution applies. Residents who fled their defensive positions will have their rations reduced for cowardice. Those who held the line will receive bonus allocations. His eyes swept across the assembled crowd, and Logan could have sworn they lingered on him for a moment before moving on. This is why the shelter requires strong leadership. Without structure, without discipline, we all die. Remember that next time you question my methods. He returned to his platform, leaving his lieutenants to organize the cleanup and restoration efforts. The stone bear's corpse alone would feed the shelter for days. But more importantly, it was a rare rank genetic material, worth potentially 10 to 15 potential points if cooked properly, far more valuable than the uncommon and common creature, meat most residents survived on. Logan helped Sarah's group harvest the crystal lizards they'd killed, his enhanced strength making the work easier than it should have been. But his mind was elsewhere, processing what he'd witnessed. Dante's evolution was beyond anything Logan had seen, specialized, optimized, terrifyingly effective. The Lord Medallion had clearly amplified his power during the fight, the boost making him exponentially stronger than a normal first evolution user. Whatever path Dante had chosen, he'd then enhanced it with rare creature genes, Lord Privilege, bonuses, and over a year of careful optimization. Challenging him directly would be suicide. Logan's crystal path evolution was strong, his beast soul ability was useful, but he was still fresh from tutorial mode, with zero genetic potential towards second evolution. Dante was operating at a completely different level. The night stretched on as the shelter recovered from the attack. Final count was 7 dead, mostly baseline humans who'd been caught in the open. 19 injured, several seriously enough that survival was questionable without medical care that didn't exist. The barrier was completely down until morning, leaving the shelter vulnerable, so Dante organized rotating watch shifts that conspicuously didn't include his inner circle. Logan volunteered for the midnight to dawn shift, earning approving nods from Sarah and her group. He stood on the western wall with Kyle and Jenna, watching the dark forest beyond, his enhanced senses alert for movement. They talked quietly during the long hours, and Logan learned more about the shelter's history and Dante's true timeline. Dante's. Been here way longer than 8 months, Kyle said quietly, his youthful face serious in the moonlight. That's just what he tells new arrivals. Sarah thinks it's been over a year, maybe 14 or 15 months. He was one of the very first activated users, back when the phenomenon was extremely rare. How can you tell? Logan asked. The infrastructure, Jenna explained, her perception-enhanced senses constantly scanning the forest. These buildings, the crafting district, the organized hunting territories, that takes months to develop, not weeks. Plus some of the older residents have been keeping track of time. Dante's lies about his timeline to seem less threatening make it look like anyone could catch up to him with enough effort. But the truth is, he's had over a year of Lord Privilege bonuses compounding his growth. Logan felt sick as the implications sank in. If Dante had been receiving a 25% boost to genetic potential gains for over a year, his actual power was far beyond what his presented timeline suggested. He might be close to second evolution, maybe even already there and hiding it. The gap between them wasn't just large, it was potentially insurmountable. Why tell me this? Logan asked. Kyle and Jenna exchanged glances. Finally, Kyle spoke. Because you're planning something, we can tell. And we want you to know what you're really up against before you do something stupid and get yourself killed. And Zara thinks you might be the one, Jenna added. The one who's strong enough and smart enough to actually challenge Dante successfully. But only if you play it perfectly. One mistake, and you're dead. They continued their watch in contemplative silence, the three moons tracking across the purple sky, the sounds of the forest, a constant reminder of the dangers beyond the shelter's temporary safety. Logan's mind churned with new information, recalculating strategies, adjusting timelines. Around 3 a.m, by Logan's internal clock, Jenna and Kyle's watch shift ended, and they were replaced by other volunteers. Logan remained, having volunteered for a double shift. He wanted time to think, to process, to plan. That's when Rachel appeared.